Stop using the term functional if you're not actually functional. Please. You're giving all of us a bad name. It's horrible. I'm sick of it. I want to rip that functional term out of your name and out of your hand. And I don't know where you got it and why you started using it, because you sure as hell were not trained functionally. So this is my message to all the doctors and practitioners and whatever else you are that are using the terms functional and integrative and alternative. And then when it comes to thyroid patients, you don't test more than the TSH and the T4. Maybe I'll get a free T3. Usually it's a total T3 because they just check the T3 box and think that they're functional. And that still tells me nothing. I still need the free T3. So they'll test something with a 3 in it to feel like they're doing something. They'll forget the reverse T3, and then they won't test the antibodies. And then let's take that one more step. Let's say they do test it because the patient questioned them, called them out, and said, hey, last I checked and heard, functional means, and when you're checking my thyroid, means that you're going to test all of these tests. What's up? You're going to run them? Then they run them. Then we get the labs back. So this is where I'm getting questions from a couple. Well, they're not patients. They're acquaintances. They're friends. They went to Cleveland Clinic. I've been helping them kind of via text message for years, but this morning kind of just sent me over the edge. So this girl writes me back. They've been dealing with her. And let me sidestep and say, this is why I am a both and practitioner. How many times do you hear me say both and both and? No, we cannot just treat your gut and cross our fingers that your T3 is going to go up. Because if you have insulin resistance, if you have no testosterone, you're not going to convert T4 to T3. So we can look at your gut all day long and it's great and gut's important, but if you're only focused on one thing, then it's not going to work. It's not going to matter. You're not going to feel better. So someone can have that functional term, and if they are only looking at one thing and telling you we'll deal with that other thing down the road, like your Hashimoto's, that's a problem. Now, I don't mind if someone starts with a thyroid, right? That's where I start. They start with the master gland, check that out, get the numbers, see where it's at, get that full picture, and both and at the same time, we're looking at your insulin. We're looking at your iron, your vitamin D, your iodine, your zinc, selenium, and we're looking at your ferritin, and we're looking at your insulin and your CMP and your CBC with diff. What's your glucose? Do you have any markings of maybe Epstein-Barr virus or an underlying infection? Maybe we do look at mold. Maybe you do that $15 visual acuity test online. Save yourself a couple $100. Don't do a functional mold test just yet. Maybe we check that out. But here's the thing. We can't start with the mold without treating the thyroid if you're all out of whack. So my acquaintance today, she's been seeing functional medicine clinic at Cleveland Clinic, because we all walk around thinking that Cleveland Clinic and Mayo Clinic are the best things ever. And if we go there, we'll get the best care in the world. And Cleveland Clinic even has gone so far to have a functional medicine clinic started by Mark Hyman. You're not going to see Mark Hyman, folks. You're going to see somebody who was hired by the functional medicine department of Cleveland Clinic. And honestly, I'd like to talk to their HR department, because they are not doing thorough screening and they are not doing thorough, I don't know, questioning on, are you actually functional? Are you functional? Because here we have this woman who has been suffering for years. I've known her for years. She's been suffering for years with extreme fatigue, inability to lose weight. Just, I mean, you name it, she has it. And functional medicine clinic at Cleveland Clinic said that she had mold. So they've been working on her mold, and they've been working on I don't know, a couple other things throughout the year. And finally today, and I've told her, I said, you know, you got to get this tested, make sure they're testing this, make sure they're testing that. This has been a couple of years. And she sends me her thyroid labs done by the functional medicine department at Cleveland Clinic. And listen, at least they did the free T3. They didn't do the reverse T3, folks. Supposedly functional, right? But we got no reverse T3 whatsoever. They did zinc, they did ferritin, all of that is good. They did the antibodies, all of that is good. But then we look at her, they did TSH, of course, but we look at her free T3. When they tested it May of last year, it was 3.1. So still not optimal, not optimal. Then they test it right now, June of 2021, whenever you're listening to this. So about a year later, now it's down to 2.4. And they keep focusing on her mold. Well, I guess, you know, okay, that's great. But at the same time that you are detoxing someone from mold toxicity, you should be supporting their thyroid. And she was already diagnosed Hashimoto's in the past. So we don't really have to go back to that. Right now, her antibodies are showing, they tested TPO. Oh, I'm sorry. I'm so sorry. They didn't even test her antibodies this time. So when I'm looking at this is last May. This is May of 2020. Antibodies were tested. And then they just, I guess, decided, even though they call themselves functional, I guess they decided the antibodies aren't important anymore. So, you know, we're just going to skip those and, yeah, call it a day, right? We're just going to skip the antibodies and call it a day. But they did test her free T3. They did not test her reverse T3. There's no iodine in here. They managed to pull off an actual iron panel with ferritin, yay. And they tested zinc. There's no mag, there's no D, there's no selenium, there's no iodine. All of these things that we look at when we are functional. And I got to tell you, part 2 of this, hormones, ladies and gentlemen. So you have mold toxicity. You get diagnosed with that by your functional or integrative or alternative, whoever you're working with. You get diagnosed with mold toxicity. They start working on that. If they also tell you that you have Hashimoto's, then guess what? Your sex hormones are going to be out of whack. And as we're detoxing you, your sex hormones are going to change. 9 times out of 10 with my guys, if you have Hashimoto's, hypothyroidism, you're going to have low testosterone and high estrogen. It's just going to happen. It's just going to happen. So we have to keep an eye on that. It's not one and done test. We have to keep an eye on that. And we have to treat it if necessary, because you can't walk around with low testosterone and be detoxing from mold, air quotes, detoxing from mold and think that you're going to feel like $1 million. You're not, because your testosterone's in the crapper. You're going to feel like crap. And if your estrogen is high, then all this detoxification that we're doing from mold is not taking care of the fact that you're walking around half woman, estrogen dominant. That's going to put on weight. That's going to make you moody. That's going to push down your testosterone. That's going to overburden your liver, and it's going to impair T4 to T3 conversion. So now you're just a mess, but you're on a detox protocol for mold. Good for you. Are you going to cross your fingers and wait another year to feel better? Or are you going to get to an actual functional practitioner that knows thyroid and knows hormones and actually wears the badge of functional proudly and holds up to the name, lives up to the name? Because if you're going to use functional people, practitioners, MDs, DOs, DCs, nutritionists, whatever you are, if you're going to use the term functional, you better live up to that name and not put it down, because I see too many people dropping the ball and using that term. And then I had these people calling me saying, well, you know, I am doing, I'm seeing a functional practitioner. I am seeing a functional practitioner. Yeah, but you feel like shit. So it's not working for you, is it? My message is make sure that you see a functional practitioner, and then that way we can get you on the right path. If you are a functional practitioner, stop using the name, or at least live up to the name.